Hello and welcome back to day 3 of our Ixalan set review here on Gathering Information.
Hey.
We are here today to cover all of the instant speed effects. Those things that you are always wondering, what could my opponent have?
This is my favorite part of the set review. Because it means that, we're looking ahead to the pre-release.
Yes.
Pre-release, yes.
If you don't have time to listen to a whole set review, although, some of us listen to 2 or 3, you can always check out just this video. It'll tell you what your opponent could possibly have in their hand when they have mana up and you want to do something. Whether it's attacking, whether it's casting a spell, you'll know how your opponent can interfere with you when we're done here today. Now, we'll be going through in Wooburg order, and we'll be going through by mana cost, mostly just starting with what if they have 1 white, and then all the way to how many green instant speed effects are there. Who knows? We'll find out. So this is mostly to get you ready for the pre-release, although if you are going to a single night draft and you have not listened to or checked out the set at all, this would be good for you too. So let's get going. Alright, first up in white we have Demystify. It's a single white mana, it's an instant, and it destroys target enchantment. Now this will typically not matter much in the middle of combat or when you're casting spells or anything. It's just one of those effects that tends to happen at instant speed.
And you probably won't see it until at the end of the first game. People might board it in against you.
Post-board.
Yeah.
So what you might want to keep in mind for this card is if you are playing a bunch of creature enchantments, maybe they can demystify your +2/+2 when you go to attacks, and then they can block and kill your creature. Or, more likely, they'll board it in against your pacifism style effect, so that they'll get their creature back at instant speed and be able to block if you don't know they're coming. So that's really all I can think of.
Yep, I think so.
Anyway, moving along. Sheltering Light. For a single white mana, this is an instant speed combat trick, and it's at uncommon. Target creature gains indestructible until end of turn. Scry 1. Now, indestructible is cannot be destroyed, and lethal damage doesn't kill the creature. It can still be exiled or bounced to the hand or made -X, although there aren't many of those effects. I don't think there are any of them in this set.
There's one. I think
There's
one
one?
or two,
Okay.
yeah.
So most of the time this will save a creature that's in combat, attacking or blocking. So if there seems to be something hinky about the attack, you might think to this. More directly, we have Vampire Zeal. A single white, target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So this is your basic combat trick.
Yeah.
+2/+2 isn't big, but it is enough to win combat most times. Now, if the creature is a vampire, it gains first strike, so that can be an all-out, blowout. Be careful if your opponent is attacking you with a vampire, or if they're blocking with a vampire, they have a vampire to block with. This is at common, so they're probably going to run one if they have a bunch of vampires.
Yep.
Finally, we have Slash of Talons. For a single white, it's an instant at common. It deals 2 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. Now, this can be used to just take out an X2, or it can be used in conjunction with a block to kill a creature. People are going to play these, especially at the pre-release. It's the kind of effect that you can get good value out of when you know you're getting into creature combat. So be aware. 2 toughness things, attacking or blocking into open white mana, might have a real bad time. Moving up the mana chain, if your opponent has 3 mana open and some of it's white, they might have, gain 4 life? The only time this is really going to be make the difference is in a race when you know, you think you're swinging in for lethal, and haha, your opponent gains 4 life. So the fact that this is instant speed is the only thing that maybe makes it playable, but it's not what you really need to be worried about if they've got 3 mana open. What you really need to worry about if they have 3 mana open is Rallying Roar.
Oh boy.
It's an instant at uncommon, and creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. And untap them. So if it looks like they're swinging in with a bunch of creatures and they're just going to be dead to a crackback, this is probably something to look for. Although, if you do end up blocking to try to kill their creatures, the +1/+1 might make for some pretty bad almost trades. So this is definitely something to be aware of. It is uncommon, so it'll be a little less common than some of the others, but it's worth remembering. Finally, at common and uncommon, we have Bright Reprisal. 4 and a white for an instant, destroy target attacking creature. Draw a card. Now, this is 5 mana, so if your opponent leaves 5 mana open, you should probably be expecting something. And in white, this is what they'll have. They'll be able to kill your biggest thing that attacks. So maybe you want to hold back that big thing and just swing with your 2/2s. Who knows? Anything more to say about it?
No. It's pretty self-explanatory. Yep.
On to the rares. In white, we've got 2 white for an instant. Exile all attacking creatures target player controls. That player may search his or her library for that many basic land cards, put those cards onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle their library. So, I think I forgot to say the name. Settle the Wreckage is one of those rares that is going to sort of have some corner case workability. I really don't think that anyone should be playing it, but who knows? Your opponent might think otherwise. And finally, in white, we have Sanguine Sacrament. X white for an instant at rare. You gain twice X life. Put Sanguine Sacrament on the bottom of its owner's library. So again, this is one of those life gain spells. It's probably not going to come up, but it is instant speed, and it could, cost a lot of mana. So if they're trying to make you think that they have the 5 mana destroy thing, and really they only have this, maybe they'll get you. But I wouldn't bother playing around this. It's really more the 1, 3, and possibly 5 mana commons and uncommons that you should be worrying about in white. Moving on to blue. So first up in blue is Spell Pierce. Good old Spell Pierce. I don't know what you call it. People call it other things like it a Spell Pierce effect. It's blue for an instant at common. Counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 2. Now, for 1 mana, making your opponent pay 2 can be quite a bit. If your opponent has single blue open, you might want to try to either draw out a counterspell, or maybe even just cast your smaller thing that they can't spell pierce, because it is a common and people will be playing these. It's the perfect thing to really get you right on curve. If not spell pierce, then perhaps they have dive down for a blue. It's an instant at common. Target creature you control gains +0/+3 and gains hexproof until end of turn. So this is a great way to counter removal, because it doesn't counter the removal, it just makes it fizzle. It's a great way to win combat too. If you think you're going to trade, you might find yourself down a creature. But it's mostly the hexproof that is really potent on this particular card. Next up, we have Opt. For a single blue, it's an instant at common. Scry 1, and then draw a card. This is the kind of spell that your opponent might play on turn 1, or they might just leave in their hand while they have a counter spell, and if you don't play anything they can counter, well, then they can use this to get benefit out of the mana instead. Or they might just hold it to make you think they have a Spell Pierce. So if you play a few things that it looks like they should have tried to counter and they haven't, maybe they have one of these. Although at that point they've probably just used it. Anyway, next we have Perilous Voyage for 1 and a blue. So at 2 mana, it's an instant at uncommon. Return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. If its converted mana cost was 2 or less, scry 2. Now that really doesn't matter if you're wondering whether your opponent has it or not, but being able to bounce one of your creatures in the middle of combat, or one of your important enchantments or artifacts to maybe get some value, or kill one of your creatures, because that's what, sealed is all about. Be wary. This is what blue gets for removal. Then at the 2 mana slot we have Siren's Ruse. 1 and a blue for an instant. Exile target creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. If a pirate was exiled this way, draw a card. Now, I think people will mostly be playing this if they have those pirates, because I don't think flickering for 2 mana is going to do all they needed to do just on its own. Although you might see people playing this if they have a lot of enter the battlefield effects, or just if they want to, get a free block, but that's really not worth a card. So I'd be more likely to play around the previous than this one.
Yeah.
Onto the 3 mana spot, we've got Lookout's Dispersal. 2 and a blue for an instant at uncommon. Lookout's Dispersal costs 1 less to cast if you control a pirate. So again, if they control a pirate, this is at the 2 mana slot.
Ooh.
If not, it's at the 3 mana slot. Either way, counter target spell unless its controller pays 4.
Yeah, that's ouchy. That's not something that's easy to play around.
No, I really wouldn't play around it. I think they're going to get value out of the spell if they have it, from me most of the time. But I would again be looking for, are they playing heavy pirates? Because they're much more likely to play this card if they have pirates. And if they have pirates, it only costs 2.
Yeah,
so
that's crazy.
Be aware of that mana cost. Here we have Cancel. 1 blue, our first double blue spell. Counter target spell. It's your standard counter spell nowadays. It does take double blue, so that's something to be aware of. If they have double blue, they'll be able to counter anything. Although, if they don't have double blue, they may just be trying to make you pay 4, which, honestly, you're not going to be able to play most of the time. Once more at 3 mana, 2 and a blue, we have Depths of Desire. Instant, return target creature to its owner's hand, then create a treasure. So this is a 3 mana bounce, and it can work on anyone's creatures. So this is something else to be aware of. It can change combat math. It can be used to get blockers out of the way. It can be used to reuse enter the battlefield effects, or even to blank some enchantment-based removal. So there's a lot that this can do, and being aware of it is important. On to 4 mana, we have Run Aground. 3 and a blue for an instant at common. Put target artifact on or creature on top of its owner's library. This is a little better than just bouncing a creature. It blanks a draw step, and you have to pay the cost again. So, in effect, it does the same thing as far as bounce for getting a creature out of the way, or changing combat math for a double block, or saving a creature from dying, etc. But it's a little more expensive. Finally, at common and uncommon, we've got a flash creature. Wind Strider is 4 and a blue, and it's a 3/3 flyer. So the way in the air may not necessarily be clear. Again, 5 mana is a lot to leave open, but you should be expecting something if your opponent is passing with all their mana up, and this is one of those things. Plus, it can be flashed in at the end of turn even if nothing happens, and then suddenly they have a 3/3 flyer to attack with the next turn. So be prepared. On to the rares, we have another flash flyer. This one for 2 blue. It's Dreamcaller Siren. It's a 3/3 flash flyer as well, but it can only block creatures with flying. And when it enters the battlefield, if you control another pirate, tap up to 2 target non-land permanents. And those can be creatures. So this one can really change a race, because it can come down end of your turn, tap 2 of your creatures, and then your opponent is not only swinging with a 3/3 in the air, but whatever else those 2 creatures would have been blocking.
It's pretty sweet.
Of
course, it is at rare, so you're less likely to see it.
Yeah.
But, yep.
Finally, in blue, we have Spell Swindle. At 3 blue, it's an instant at rare. Counter target spell, then create X treasures, where X is the spell's converted mana cost. So it's expensive for a counter spell, but it's kind of exciting, and it's a rare, so people will probably be playing it. If they pass with 5 up, they could have that flash flyer, or they could have this, especially if it looks like they want treasures. Now again, if your opponent passes with all their mana up, you should be suspicious anyway, but now you know what they could have. On to black. Starting with 1, we've got Skullduggery. For a single black, it's an instant at common. Until end of turn, target creature you control gets +1/+1, and target creature an opponent controls gets -1/-1. Now this can change combat in a variety of ways.
Oh boy.
It can make a 2/2 trade with a 4/4. It can make a 2/2 trade with a 3/3 and completely wipe out another small creature. It can just kill another small creature. It can do any number of things, and it's definitely something that's going to get played.
Especially at common.
Yeah, I'll play one in my black deck.
Oh,
so
for sure. It's pretty sweet.
And you should be aware, if you have a bunch of X1s, that the -1 doesn't have to target something that's attacking.
Yeah.
So keeping them out of combat might not save them. Anyway, on to 2 mana. Costly Plunder for 1 and a black is an instant. As an additional cost to cast Costly Plunder, sacrifice an artifact or a creature. Draw 2 cards. This isn't something that you really need to worry about, but it's something, again, that your opponent can do to use up their mana if they don't get you with one of their counter spells or other combat tricks on your turn. For 3 mana, 2 and a black, Vanquish the Weak is an instant. Destroy target creature with power 3 or less. Now, that's going to be most of your early drops. This will probably kill anything smaller than a 4-drop. So, and it's at common, so you'll see these a lot.
I think we figured that there are between 40 and 50 things with power 3 or less.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that this can target.
And this is your 3 mana removal spell, so if they're in black, this is what they're most likely to have. Now, if they want to leave open a whole 5 mana, 4 and a black has Dark Nourishment. It's an instant at uncommon. Dark Nourishment deals 3 damage to target creature or player, and you gain 3 life. So it's not that much more potent than killing something with 3 power. It kills anything with 3 toughness, but they gain life, which could be relevant.
And in a pre-release, if you haven't got all of the best of the removal or something cheaper, you're going to run this.
Yeah,
so
probably.
You're going to see them.
All right, on to the rares, I believe. Yes, we've got Blood Crazed Paladin. 1 and a black for a Vampire Knight at rare. It's a 1/1 with flash. But it enters...
Really?
It enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each creature that died this turn.
Oh, boy.
So this is definitely something to keep in your mind if your opponent looks like they want to trade their board, or if they're attacking with what looks like a really bad attack, because this will count creatures on either side of the battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're trading 2 creatures for their 2 creatures, this is going to be a 5/5. And they can do it at end of your turn or end of their turn,
Yeah.
after the creatures have died. So be aware. Finally, in black, we have the premium removal of the set, Vraska's Contempt. 2 black for an instant at rare, exile target creature or planeswalker, and gain 2 life. Now, the 2 life doesn't really matter, but the exile target creature or planeswalker really does. This will kill anything that doesn't have hexproof. And I don't think there's much with hexproof other than those little 1/1s.
There's a couple of things, but not a whole lot.
So 4 mana is, a moderate amount to pay, but this is something to look for from your opponents in black. On to red, we have Dual Shot for a single red. It's an instant. Dual Shot deals 1 damage to each of up to 2 target creatures. This is going to kill a couple of things. If you see this in your opponent's deck, you might just want to sideboard out your X1s, if possible, into something a little bigger. But it's going to get you the first time it gets played, because for 1 mana, it'll kill something. Mm-hmm. Also, it can be combined with creature damage to kill something bigger.
Yep, it's pretty good.
At 2 mana, we have Sure Strike, 1 and a red. It's an instant at common. Target creature gets +3/+0 and gains First Strike until end of turn. This is how you win combat.
I would say.
+3/+0 isn't really great, except First Strike means the toughness doesn't matter.
Yep.
Again, for 1 and a red, we've got Lightning Strike. Lightning Strike deals 3 damage to target creature or player. This is the premium removal in red, as far as I'm concerned. It'll kill a bunch of things, and you can't really do much about it. Mm-hmm. Here we have something else for 3 mana. The first thing for 3 mana, Dinosaur Stampede, is 2 and a red for an instant. Attacking creatures get +2/+0 until end of turn. Dinosaurs you control gain trample until end of turn. Now, I wouldn't play this if I didn't have dinosaurs, but some people might. Mm-hmm. At 3 mana, giving your team +2/+0 is a little more than I want to spend, unless I'm also giving them trample. And if your opponent is tacking in with a bunch of dinosaurs, well, you might want to take this into account when assigning your blockers. Fiery Cannonade is also 2 and a red. It's an instant at uncommon, and it deals 2 damage to each non-pirate creature. Is your opponent's board full of pirates? Keep this in mind. Unfriendly Fire is our 5-drop in red. 4 and a red for an instant at common. It deals 4 damage to target creature or player. This can target any creature that, or this can kill any creature that has power 4 or toughness 4 or less. It can be combined with creature combat, or it could go straight to your face. So as a common, you might want to worry if your life total starts to get low. Finally, we have green. No 1-drops in green, which is a little interesting. Mm-hmm. But we start off with Verdant Rebirth. 1 and a green for an instant at uncommon. Until end of turn, target creature gains, when this creature dies, return it to its owner's hand. And that comes with draw a card. So this is a way of saving your creature in combat, I guess. Honestly, this card seems pretty bad, but you will see people playing it at the pre-release, for sure. Mm-hmm. It will facilitate, winning combat in that it draws 2 cards, kind of, for a trade. If you want something a little more substantive for 2 mana, we've got River Herald's Boon. For 1 and a green, it's an instant at common. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, and a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target merfolk. So those counters can go on the same merfolk. So this could be 2 mana, give a merfolk +2/+2. But it could also just be give a creature +1/+1. So if someone's in a merfolk deck, you should be looking for this. If not, they may still be playing this, but it will only change combat math a little bit. Finally, at 2 mana, we have Pounce. This is going to be one of the premium removal spells for green. Green's going to have bigger creatures, and they're just going to eat your creatures. So, at 2 mana, this is what I would be looking out for.
Yeah, for sure.
At the 3 mana slot, we've got Crash the Ramparts. 2 and a green for an instant at common. Target creature gets +3/+3 and gains trample until end of turn. With 3 mana open in the middle of combat, that's not that suspicious when people like to play their creatures post-combat. But be aware that +3/+3 is quite a bit. And trample could just mean getting through for that extra damage. Also at 3 mana, we've got Crushing Canopy. This is a modal card. It's instant at common. Choose 1. Destroy target creature with flying, and destroy target enchantment. Now, the creature with flying is what really matters here. If you have flyers, you can bet that your green opponents are going to board this in, but at a pre-release, they might just be running it main board. So, be on the lookout for that. Finally, at 3 mana, we have 2 and a green, Blinding Fog. It's an instant at common. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to creatures this turn. And then creatures you control gain hexproof until end of turn. Now, this could just be a 3 mana counter a combat trick, or counter a removal spell, because your opponent's creatures gaining hexproof means that you can't kill them. They could also use this to block your team and then swing back for a bunch of damage, because this will prevent damage to all creatures. It doesn't prevent damage that creatures deal to players, so it's honestly not very good, but you may see it. At 4 mana, we have 2 green, Slice in Twain. Instant at uncommon, destroy target artifact or enchantment and draw a card. This is one of those sideboard cards that they'll probably board in if you have some scary enchantment or artifact, one of the ones that becomes a land, maybe. But honestly, it's not one that I would worry greatly about. However, our final card at 5 mana is Snapping Sailback. 4 and a green is a dinosaur at uncommon with flash. It's a 4/4, and it has Enrage. Whenever Snapping Sailback is dealt damage, put a +1/+1 counter on it. This is the perfect creature to play before blocks. To block something with, and then, oops, it gets a +1 counter and kills an attacker. So, something to be aware if your green opponent is passing with all their mana up, or if you've already seen it, because this is going to be quite a good card. And Salem thinks so too. So that's it for the instant speed effects. Strange, there are no rares in green, but I guess those slots are mostly devoted to creatures.
Which kind of makes sense in green.
So it looks like the removal is a little weaker in this set than in a few sets previous, but there's still plenty to watch out for, and now you should be prepared. Thanks again for watching. And please recommend this video to others who maybe are heading to their own pre-release, or maybe just want to draft the set once and don't have time for a full set review, or don't care for a full set review. In either event, we will be back with a report after our pre-release. You can find that on our podcast, The Knowledge Pool, where you can also listen to our full set review if you don't want to sit in front of a computer and do it. So until next time, thanks very much for watching.
Thanks for watching.